You're listening to Phil DeBella, and this is FlashCast by PDB. In today's topic, I want to talk about a bit of planning for tough times. So let's discuss good tips around planning for tough times. How do you actually create a survival budget? So I'm going to cover a few areas of that. In times that at the moment, a lot of people have been on decreased incomes. People obviously earning a lot of money. Some people have lost their jobs and, big changes and need big adjustments. And it doesn't matter what stage in life and what's going on. There's lots that gets thrown at us that we're not ready for. So this is probably something that you could follow or should be following at all times. And I've certainly had a good upbringing with my parents. They always put something away for a rainy day. If you make $10, spend $8. So it's something that I've been used to. But it's something I also teach my kids. I mean, the father of a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old, I'm really making sure that I'm trying to help them and guide them in a way that, in a world of where there's abundance and, pre-COVID, there was a world of abundance and materialism and things are traveling nicely. And we're now moving into a world that needs to be more frugal and life's measured in moments. And it's a great opportunity for us all to pause, do a reset, and obviously teach our children as they grow about important things like managing money and handling budgets, but also ourselves to really align ourselves and take a look at what we're doing or not doing. And unfortunately, and I pray for all of you, some of us have just had some difficult times and with COVID thrown in. And like I said, no one's coming through COVID any richer or better off. All of us have taken a hit. We've had to, we've lost money in different areas and all the rest of it. And what's helped get us through is obviously being able to put some away for a rainy day and be prepared. And I just want to share some of the tips, and things that I've made notes of over the years and especially of late on how we can plan and still planning to make sure that we can be as financially, responsible as possible and eliminate any bad issues. But, I want to kick off with an effective financial plan for bankruptcy has these four things, right? To plan for bankruptcy, and no one wants to go bankrupt. But a great way to make sure that you don't and to plan for it is simply get rid of as much debt as you can, have an emergency fund, have a survival budget, and practice. So debt elimination, making sure you've got as least debt as you can, especially when money is in surplus or money is coming in, you need to be getting rid of as much debt as you can. Always have what we call a lifeboat, an emergency fund. It doesn't matter how small or big, chip away at it, put something aside. Operate on a survival budget when you need to, and practice responsible management of money. It really, really is important, So let's kick off. And the first thing to cover is, eliminating as much debt as you can. The last thing you want when things are going tough is people knocking on the door. Because when things are going tough, they're normally going tough for everybody. So there's lots of people knocking on the door, and you want to make sure that you're not in a position, because when someone comes knocking for their debt, it normally means they need it. So they're going to push hard. So you need to make sure that you're in a position to have at least, least amount of debt as you possibly can. And the great way to tackle debt is when things are going good. And what we say is planning for bad when things are good. Get rid of as much debt as you possibly can, and don't carry any debt that you're uncomfortable with. Anything that keeps you up at night is not good. Building an emergency fund, a lifeboat. Emergency fund is a stash of cash that you put aside that you can pull at any time in case you lose your job or something breaks. It could be a fridge breaks down, something that is, that you don't normally budget for. You need an emergency fund. We all need an emergency fund. And unfortunately, a lot of people use their credit card as an emergency fund. And when you're paying high interest rates, that's not a sound operation. You need to have an emergency fund. So start to build one. It doesn't matter. 5 and 5 is 10 and 10 and 10 is 20. And before you know it, you've got thousands of dollars put away. You need it, and it needs to be an emergency fund. And an emergency fund, to be clear, is for all those expenses that you don't expect. No one expects their fridge to blow up. No one expects, somebody to lose their job all of a sudden. You need to have that emergency fund. The next thing is creating a budget. Now, what we say is a lot of people do have a budget, but you need to go into survival budget mode. When things are tough and you want to plan for tough times and possible times, and I'm predicting February, March, April next year are going to get tough. 2021 is going to be financially difficult for a lot of people. We don't know what the banks are doing. We don't know what JobKeeper's doing, and that's going to affect people at all levels. It's going to affect small, medium business owners, which then affects employees, which then affects households. So now's the time to start building a survival budget. And what we mean by a survival budget is what are your minimum expenses that you need to get to make sure that you attend to, right, to get by And then how much money do you need to cover that? So what are your minimum expenses? And of course, minimum expenses, groceries, paying rates, paying insurances, paying for cars, petrol, school fees, all the things that are minimum expenses, not holidays, not upgrading your car, not buying an extra TV. It's all the things that your minimum expenses to get by. And then making note of how much money you need to cover them. If you're a two-income family, you might be able to switch across in a survival budget and survive off one, and then the other wage gets put into the emergency fund or paying down debt, up to you. But now's the time to plan it. Not when it's the last minute, but now. So if you're in good stead at the moment and you've both couples working, now's the time to be planning of what could be the unknown next year, is to build that survival budget, right? And it'll also give you an idea of what you need to put aside for the emergency fund. So once you've done your survival budget, you'll be able to see what sort of money's left for an emergency fund and to pay down debt. And if you've got extra, pay down the debt, put a bit in the emergency fund and get yourself, set up. Now, a great way to look at budget, and I'll give you a few tips around going with this whole budget. So building a survival budget is something that needs to happen and needs to happen now. If you're nervous about 2021 and you're crazy if you're not, I'm nervous, everyone's nervous. Doesn't matter how much wealth somebody's got. As I said, it's all relative, but everyone needs to plan. Right, is you need to look at your current budget. You've already got a budget, whether you know it or you don't. Some people are conscious about their budget, some are not. Budget simply is money in, money out. Now, some people are conscious about that, some people are not. But have a look at your current budget. How much money are you making? How much of it are you spending? How much of it are you wasting? So when it comes to spending it, how much of it do you need to spend to getting by, and how much is discretionary spending that you don't really need to spend, but you are? Now's a good time to really have a look at your expenses and your current budget. The next thing then is to work out how you're going to readjust your income. So when you go into a survival budget, how are you actually going to readjust your income? So are you on two wages? Is that guaranteed? Is one of them at risk? Have you gone from two incomes down to one income? So there's a set of questions. Is your partner still earning an income? Is an income likely to be diminished or decreased? Is it going to be increased temporarily? Have you been paid out your leave entitlements? Can you stretch these? Can you access your leave entitlements? Were you given a redundancy package? Can you be given a redundancy package? How many weeks will your emergency fund last? If you've currently got one, how long will it last? These are all the questions that you need to be looking at. Are you eligible for any unemployment benefits if things go bad? You need to spin that Rubik's Cube and work out all different possible scenarios and ways that things could help that you need to happen. The next thing is you need to work out how you're going to eliminate your discretionary spending. And your discretionary spending is memberships to things you don't need, excess spending on clothes, any memberships to wine clubs, whiskey clubs, whatever it is. This is all discretionary. Going out for restaurants, extravagant birthday parties. Now's the time to start really questioning and looking and being frugal. You can still have great times, but you don't need a big budget to do it. Remember, frugal is the word. You need to make sure you have a look at that. The next thing is have a look at how you can negotiate fixed expenses. Is there fixed expenses that you can lower? Have you got a current cleaner for 10 hours a week that you can bring it down to 5 or 6 hours? What are the fixed expenses that you can drop? Right. These are just contingency plans. Now, in summary, the key is planning. The key is knowing data, analysis, and strategy. Sit down with a pen and paper, assess your current situation, collect all the data, then analyze that data. What are the fixed expenses? What are the expenses that you need to do? What is the discretionary spending? Where are the opportunities to save? Where's the opportunities to make more money? Or are you going to make less money? Put it all down on a piece of paper. Draw your financial roadmap. Be financially responsible. And this will help you be ready in case of tough times. But the time to get ready for tough times is when things are good. Don't wait to the last minute. You will pay the price. Please, we wish well for everybody. Plan, plan, plan. You've been listening to Phil DeBella. This is FlashCast by PDB. Go and be financially responsible, frugal, but remember that life is measured in moments.